Hey everybody, you know as well as I do that we like to sit and relax and listen to other people's experiences and stories on this show. And we're going to do that on this week's episode, but we have to talk about something serious. With the district attorney's stories, he had to bring up past trial cases, and some of the content is very explicit. So with that, I've partnered up with the RAIN organization, and I want to put a disclaimer out that this podcast episode deals with themes of child sexual abuse and sexual assault. Listener discretion advised. If you have experienced sexual violence, you are not alone. Free, confidential, 24/7 support is available through RAIN's National Sexual Assault Hotline via phone at 800-656-4673 and via chat at online.rainn.org. I just want to put that out there. There's going to be a video version on YouTube, but for the audio episodes, we're going to put this before. And I hope you enjoy this episode, but I want to put the resources and help out there if needed. Thank you, everybody.
Texas Barons Podcast, let's go.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
What's up, everybody? Today I have a super special guest here in Wichita County. It is John Gillespie, our district attorney. He's at the very top of his office here at the courthouse. And we're just going to hear a story of how he got into basically law, how he got into the county government, and then kind of everything in between. So, we're just here to hear him out. And then, John, I wanted to give you the floor. If you have anything to say or like want to announce anything right now, feel free. And if not, man, we can jump right into it.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Levi, for having me, and thanks for all your listeners.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to share with you today.
Yeah.
I grew up over in Burke Burnett.
Okay.
My dad was a pharmacist. He had the corner drugstore to start with.
Where's that at?
It's the Elder and Bickings law firm now.
Okay. It's close to 3rd Street, ain't it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Shout out to Steven and them. So, okay, cool.
And then moved to Walmart in the 80s.
Okay.
My mom was a school teacher, and so I grew up, there. My parents are very involved in the community.
Okay, cool, man. That's awesome. And then you went to Burke your entire life, huh?
I did. Class of 92. We had our 30-year reunion, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is. So I was just telling John right before this is that, Iowa Park and Burke have always had like a rivalry type of thing, but we're here to build bridges and make friendships and broadcast people's stories rather than, let old dumb traditions, tear down friendships. So anyways, man, I wanted to just get into it, hear your story, and then I wanted to throw you an easy question out there of just where did your journey start with law, and did you know at a young age this is what you wanted to do, or did it mature as you're a little bit older? Just kind of walk me through the process of how it started.
Sure. I don't really understand how I knew this. I'm a Christian, so I believe God sometimes reveals things to us at an early age. But I came home in 7th grade and told my mom I was going to be a lawyer.
Cool.
And so, I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you'll change your mind." I never changed my mind, never deviated from that.
Mm-hmm.
Did a lot of speech and debate in high school
to
get
cool.
ready for it.
Cool.
And I worked for my dad in the summers when I was in college, and pharmacists consistently rate as one of the most respected professions.
Yeah.
And his customers would come in and they'd say, "Oh, are you going to be a pharmacist like your daddy?" I'd say no, and they say, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I'd say, "Well, I want to go to law school and be a lawyer."
Cool.
And they'd get this like frown on their face, and they'd say, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Law does not rate nearly as is not as well respected as pharmacists, but. Anyway, that was during college. I went to A&M for undergrad and then Baylor for law school.
Okay, cool. So you stayed in Texas, and then what did that look like time frame wise? Did you jump straight from high school and go to A&M?
I did. I did the whole thing. It's 7 years.
Oh man, okay, so that's quite a journey. So right. I mean, if you're out there looking and you're thinking about doing law, just get ready for a long road. But I mean, clearly it pays off, Yes. So there's always a bright end at the end of that tunnel, I feel like, for lawyers, just because it may be a daunting task, but man, I feel like you can really help people out but make a great income at the same time. And so that's interesting. And then what was your experiences from A&M to Baylor? That's a little bit of a rivalry, but which ones you like more, and then which ones you feel more connected to?
I bleed maroon, so
Okay.
it's
I gotcha.
A&M.
Yeah.
I appreciated Baylor, but
Yeah.
all my loyalty is with I'm an Aggie
Right.
through.
I gotcha. Baylor for sure cleaned up more. I'd say in like the past decade, they've really came to light and got with the wave, really.
It's been exciting. I work with Dobie Kossov at the DA's office.
Okay.
And he's like the biggest Baylor fan in the world.
Yeah.
And, winning the Sugar Bowl and the basketball national championship in the same year is just crazy to
Right.
see Baylor do. So,
Right, for sure. And then what conference is Baylor in now?
it was-
I don't know who they, because they're a little bit of a smaller D1 school, correct?
Well, they were in the Big 12.
Okay,
and then,
okay.
There's that realignment with Texas and
Okay, yeah.
OU going.
I don't follow the sports close enough to know, but I just know that A&M and University of Texas and everything's a little bit bigger. But I went to tech school in Waco at TSTC right down the road from Baylor. And then so I saw the old stadium, which is kind of similar to like what MSU uses, a little bit better, kind of like what University of North Texas used to have, a little bit older. And then, man, right there on 35, they put up that multi-million-dollar stadium. So
it looks so nice.
I really like it. And Waco's a funny town, and we can talk about whatever we want to here. But Waco's a funny town because if you're driving south and you look to the left, Baylor just takes over the whole, like, several miles, and it looks kind of like old churches, very nice, prestigious-looking campus, and then you see the stadium, beautiful, beautiful. But, man, if you look to your right, it's kind of the hood right there, and then it's a little like, man, don't pull over to that side. Go to a gas station on the left side of the highway. So it was always an interesting town to me, but I really do appreciate Waco. It clearly helped both of us in our professional careers. So,
Absolutely.
But that's awesome, man. And you did how many years did you do at A&M?
I did 4 years.
4 years, okay. Did you join a frat or anything?
I wasn't in a frat.
Yeah.
I was in the Navigators.
Okay.
So collegiate
What is
ministry.
that? Okay, cool. And did that help you like at all further your career right whenever you got out of school? Did you make any good connections through that?
I made some lifelong friends.
Okay,
from
cool, man. That's good. I hadn't even thought about that before you mentioned it, before just right now. But yeah, there's a lot of good networking to be done at a young age while you're still in school. Yeah, so that's neat. And then do you do anything? Do you work with any of those people, or you just keep connected with them now?
They're just good friends.
Cool. That's good to know, man. So anyways, you had a good long journey into school, and then what did it look like right when you graduated from Baylor? What did life look like? You got these degrees, and did you know what you wanted to do, or were you just ready to test the waters at that point?
So I always thought I wanted to be a corporate lawyer.
Okay.
And, looking back, I knew so little about what corporate lawyers did or
Right.
anything else. But I had that opportunity, and I went to work for a firm called Jenkins & Gilchrist in Dallas.
Okay.
At the time, it was the largest Dallas-based firm with,
Okay.
I think, 700 lawyers.
Cool.
And I was in the commercial litigation section.
Gotcha.
Some of our clients, Pepsi was one of our
Okay.
major clients, but it was
Okay.
like businesses suing each other.
Okay.
And, it was a wonderful opportunity. I'm glad I had it, but it was completely soul numbing. And looking at boxes of documents.
Right.
These multi-million-dollar lawsuits and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got what I thought I wanted, and then discovered this is not what God put me on the earth to
Right.
do.
Okay. Yeah, man. You leave college so like green-eared, bushy-tailed, ready to take the world on, and then to get stuck behind a desk and just be like, look, Pepsi's going after Coca-Cola again. Like, just get ready. We did this 3 months ago. We're doing it again. Like that. It could be soul destroying, or just freaking boring.
Yes.
You're ready to get out there, and you're probably looking for, seeing where you're at now, you were probably looking forward to getting the bad guy maybe. Were you interested in the criminal stuff at that point?
So, funny story. I started praying. I didn't think Jenkins was a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
But I was asking God, what do you have for me in life? And we represented Pepsi was being sued by RC, Pepsi and Coke.
Okay.
in an antitrust lawsuit in East Texas.
Okay.
Little funny side note, they were using a jury consulting firm by this guy. The partners kept complaining that he was up in Amarillo advising Oprah on a lawsuit.
Okay.
And it was never available. It was Dr. Phil.
Okay.
And that was when he was getting, in that Amarillo suit over the cattle, that launched his career on Oprah.
Okay.
But anyway, the Pepsi defendants settled out on the eve of the trial, and I'd cleared 6 weeks of my time. Well, the firm had a lawyer on loan. The Dallas DA at the time had a lawyer on loan program with some of the big firms where they could loan out young associates for 3 months and go and try misdemeanor cases and get court experience.
Okay.
And so the lady that was supposed to be the first one to go from our office, from Jenkins, gave her 2 weeks notice 2 weeks before she was supposed to go.
Okay.
So the head of the commercial lit section came to me and he said, "John, you're the easiest one for us to send because you've cleared your schedule."
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I thought it was a bad thing, and I looked at him. His name was Rodney, and I said, "Rodney, I have no interest in criminal law. Please send somebody else."
Okay.
And he said, "Okay, I'm not going to tell you have to go, but I'm going to tell you have to take the night to think about it."
Okay.
So I thought about it. I was like, that'll be my crazy summer at a DA's office. I need to be more open to experiences.
True.
And so I agreed to go, and I fell in love with prosecution.
I gotcha. And how old were you at the time?
26.
Okay. I gotcha. So old enough to kind of have a grasp on the world by now, or at least know, you weren't a young 18-year-old at this point.
Right.
So
I did 12 jury trials in 3 months.
Okay.
And just had a blast. And so that's really when God awakened the heart for prosecution.
okay, I gotcha. And were you I guess representing victims in all these cases, or were you representing the defendants in these?
It's so the DA's office represents the state of Texas.
Okay.
So we're the ones bringing the charges. I always say I'm
Okay.
the guy in court pointing my finger saying he's guilty. You need to.
I just saw a picture of you. I was doing a little Google creeping on you a little bit, and it was something from 2018. I forget what it was, but they had a good action picture of you just nailing them. I was like, nice. I wish I need a good big screen that we could project that on, but. Okay, I gotcha. So you fell in love with that off of a random. They didn't force you to go, but you didn't want to, and you kind of lucked out on that. So, so what happened after? And how long did you say you did that for?
It was the summer of 2000.
Okay,
and
so like 3 months.
3 months.
Okay, and then so what it looked like. And where did you stay in the DFW area the whole time to do that?
Yeah, it was with the Dallas DA's office.
Okay, cool.
But they had an agreement that they wouldn't hire anybody that did the lawyer on loan program because they
Okay.
didn't want to poach from the firms.
Gotcha.
So I discovered I really wanted to be a prosecutor.
Okay.
And then also Dallas was, it sounds good till you live down there and it's so crowded and so much traffic.
Yeah.
And I thought I might want to move back home. So I reached out, and the Wichita County DA's office, Barry Maka was the DA at the time.
Okay, yeah.
And anyway, I reached out to them, and they hired me. So I moved back here as misdemeanor prosecutor
I
in
gotcha.
2001.
2001. Okay, and then so, man, yeah, we're trucking right along. And then, what was a big, what was something like historical in your career right whenever you got back to Wichita County? What happened to make you consider just staying here for the rest of your life?
It probably was not my long term. My parents lived in Burke Burnett,
Mm-hmm.
and I had family in the area, them and some others. But I wasn't real. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to try the prosecution thing out. And when I moved to felonies and I started trying kid cases, like child sexual abuse cases, I remember the first one that I did, and I had never encountered anything like that. It was really hard, to deal with it, but it also was it felt important to be a voice for a child that had never had anyone speak for them.
Right, for sure.
And so that's when I started realizing, hey, this is what I want to do with my life.
Gotcha, man. That's awesome. Okay, well, yeah, and then just to have kind of that fire awaken in you, and then do you have any kids?
I don't.
But man, you can just I have a funny story with a snake got in the garage the other day, and it was right at the threshold of the door, and the door was just barely cracked open, and I couldn't tell what kind of snake it was at the time, and then I couldn't where that door was, and the door from the house to the garage is right here. I couldn't open it because I knew it was going to jet right in. So I walked around, and it had already gotten into the garage. So we were trying to leave, I think, but I was like, I can't let the snake stay in the garage, because just that idea of it potentially coming close to my kids, man, it set a fire inside of me. And I was like, they're not going to know how to handle this, or they're not going to know, what to do if this snake, and I don't know what kind of snake it is, blah, blah, blah. And man, I had 2 shovels in there. I was moving our washer and dryers in our garage as well. I was moving tables and everything, swinging at anything that would move, just for the thought of, man, I got to protect these kids. And then so to be able to kind of apply that same rule to anyone else's kids, and you want it to be, that muscle, that support for them, that really speaks a lot about you, man. So
that's very kind of, and that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Of the snake. I've used that with juries and closings before. Similar things. It's like, some of these people are like having a snake in the house.
Yeah, exactly. And it may just stay in a corner and not bother anybody, but it may, really ruin someone's life and really, really cause harm for, say, a child. And then that's just kind of what we're learning as new parents is like, man, you have to, you got to be the voice for these kids, because 1, either they're not old enough to talk, and then 2, they don't know what's right and wrong yet. So
we wind up with a lot of situations too where, and this isn't all of our cases, but in some of our cases, the mom, it's usually mom's boyfriend or stepfather or some relative. And we see over and over and over where the mom or the adults in the kid's life will choose to believe the child molester or the child. And that's just all too common, that they look the other way.
Right.
And so, it may literally be when they first go to Patsy's house and get interviewed, and then, law enforcement in our office, we're the first people that have ever spoken up on behalf of the child.
Get a little closer to that microphone. Sure. That in and out is just that distance. Okay. But, yeah, man, such a big responsibility on your shoulders, but I'm glad that the state of Texas has people like you and others in your office and other counties that are putting children first. That as a new dad, I see how important that is, and we are all children at one point, and you just don't understand the importance of that until you get into these type of positions. And so I'm glad that y'all have taken that so serious, and I'm glad that was one of the big milestones in your career, to be like, okay, I know what path I want to go down. And talking about this, made me think of a question I was curious about earlier today was, does your office or the county have any type of resource for traumatic experiences for county employees? Because these are traumatic trials that y'all go through, and stories that I take it that y'all kind of put these stories on your back and try seeing through the kid's eyes or maybe another victim's eyes. And I assume that y'all go through a lot of stress doing this. And so do y'all have any resources to maybe help some PTSD or some traumatic experience?
So that's a great question, and really something I need to consider.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It's called secondary trauma.
Yeah, okay.
And so, whether it's listening to just unspeakable acts that these people will commit with children. I did, for example, the Michael Corey case in October is continuous sexual abuse, and the things he did to the 3 kids and made them do, the power he wielded over them. When I was cross-examining him, he was actually bragging about some of the stuff that he did. It's one of my encounters with evil. And the Lord has made me where I'm very compartmentalized, and I can separate it usually. But then a case like that will come along, and I've discovered, for me, I have to get away. I went and met a buddy and golfed in Weatherford at Canyon West out there. And so I was able, to get in nature. That helps me.
Yeah.
But no, we don't have any, counseling available. If I had an employee that needed one, we would make arrangements.
Okay. Well, that's good.
It is definitely a real thing. When I did the Sarah Woody child torture trial, the photo of the little boy when he showed up at the ER and he weighed 60 62 pounds, and he was 11 years old.
Oh man, yeah,
And
not
then
good.
all of he was he was in the 3rd percentile for weight because she had been starving him so severely. Below the 15th percentile is failure to thrive. And between how emaciated he was and how beaten he was, that image I could not get out of my mind. And
right.
I wound up going to see a cousin of mine that lives in Santa Fe just to get in the mountains and get away.
Okay, well, that's good that you turn to nature and get some natural, serotonin to
Yes.
kind of give you a little reset. But I know that you have to, before signing on to this job, you actually ran for your position, but there's people under you that are hired, correct?
Yes.
That you or someone in your office would hire. I assume that y'all would just have to know that, okay, this is going to be a very hard job, but I'm willing to take the risk to help somebody or, stand up for somebody and seek justice. So.
That's right. I'm very proud of I think sometimes today prosecutors get a bad rap, but the ones that I have had the honor of working with and the people we have at the DA's office are very committed to justice.
Cool.
They want to help. They really are public servants. And, we all have those cases that just, get in our heads because it is very, I tell about 2% of what I deal with and people don't even want to hear that.
Right,
That's what we
right.
see at the DA's office. It can be, from child pornography, they have videos of children being abused to having, children telling us their stories and then having to watch what happens to them in court. And, the defense attorneys do their job. There are many honorable defense attorneys, but it's still hard to watch kids have to go through that. And so it's a hard line of work.
For sure.
I think that it has to be a calling. That we're very blessed with a lot of really good people.
Well, good.
That definitely have that and are tough enough to do this.
I gotcha. And that's good, man, because you really do have to have your mind right in order to take this on. It's similar to a sheriff or similar to a police officer in the horrific stuff you can see, So, I'm glad that we have a good team with you being one of them. And, it is a serious, serious thing. But we have good people in charge, so that's good to know, and I'm glad that y'all are doing good things. And it's not all kid cases. You represent adults as well, don't you?
Sure, we prosecute adults.
Gotcha.
We just did the Justin Love murder. I was on the trial team on that one in June. He was one of the 2 people that killed Dominic Thrasher.
Okay, that's right. Dominic was a pretty popular man from Wichita Falls, right?
Yeah, just standout football player.
Yeah,
for
that's
Ryder.
right. That's right.
And it was a drug deal gone bad.
Okay.
Blaine Brooks was the shooter. I tried him
Okay.
a while back, and he was 20, I think, at the time.
Okay.
Justin he was running a marijuana distribution ring, which is not the marijuana, it's contraband. Anytime you have contraband, you got to use weapons to defend it.
Okay.
Because you can't call the police and say, hey, you stole my marijuana.
Right,
And
right.
So, they tried to run off with the marijuana, and Justin yelled, shoot him, Blaine, shoot him.
Man.
And Blaine shot him 4 times in the back.
Man.
And so we just tried they tried Justin Love when I was out of the office when I ran for DA.
Okay.
And that case got reversed, so we had to retry him.
Okay.
And anyway, we tried him. He got 50 the first time, and this jury gave him life. So
Man,
he
good.
built himself into life. But he was, in my thinking, he was always the more responsible of the 2. He was older. He had been to the pen before. He wanted Dominic killed, but he wanted Blaine to be the one to do it.
Right.
But-
Kind of the puppet master of the whole thing.
Exactly.
Okay, I gotcha, man. So yeah, you see a little bit of it all, but I wanted to for sure hear about your experiences as a what do you call when you are the district attorney right now? What was your position when you first signed on? Is it like a junior district attorney?
That's a great question. It's assistant.
Assistant. Okay,
district attorney.
I gotcha. And then so. You get hired by the district attorney at the time, and you sit down, do an interview, and kind of walk me through that. You said with, was it Maka?
Yes, Barry was the DA.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what was it like to kind of step back a little bit and then just kind of walk me through how'd you apply, and then did you have to go through a lot of interviews to get the job?
Some of that's kind of hazy. I remember There were some initial interviews. I think I drove up from Dallas on a day and knocked it all out, and then they made me an offer at the end of the day.
Okay, cool.
But it was so weird when Barry walked in because he'd been DA since like '85, so he was the guy I saw on TV. And it was like, wow, I've seen him on TV before.
Yeah, for sure.
So I got hired there. The assistants. So there's one district attorney, and then we deputize people to be our assistants.
Okay.
So you're actually deputized to be the assistant to the district attorney.
Okay, I gotcha. Interesting. And then being fast forward now, and you are district attorney, and we're going to get back more to the middle of these two questions, but you're not just prosecuting cases. Don't you have some responsibility of making laws pertaining to our county?
So I think how I would handle it is not so much making laws, but the Wichita District Attorney's Office it's technically called a criminal district attorney.
Okay.
But what that means is we have a combined office. So we have the county attorney and the district attorney are combined under one office.
Okay.
So I'm both the county attorney and the district attorney.
Okay.
And some, like our friends in the 97th, there's one district attorney for the 97th, and then there are 3 different county attorneys for Montague, Clay, and Archer.
I gotcha.
And so in Wichita, it's all combined under one office. As the county attorney, I represent Wichita County. I provide advice to your dad in the commissioner's court.
Okay.
We represent Wichita County in lawsuits. We give them legal advice.
Okay.
I think that's the function. And then if they have questions, we can provide a legal opinion to an elected. If they ask us, hey, what's the law in this? Can we do this or not? We have authority to provide legal advice and legal opinions.
I gotcha. And then I know we've in our country as a whole, we're having a lot of dispute right now on national laws, and then some things, some really hot topic items are getting pushed to state level. And then that would be, I guess, our state Congress that gets to choose on certain laws. But do we have anything on a county level that your office or any of your colleagues have to make laws or decisions that are only Wichita County based?
So there's a lot of discretion with the district attorney's office. Now, some DAs nationwide have said, hey, we're not going to prosecute thefts under $750 or $1,000, or we're not going to prosecute marijuana cases or small drug cases. My philosophy has been that I take an oath to uphold the law. It's the legislature in Austin that makes the laws. I take an oath to uphold them. Now, I have discretion on any given case. If me or my assistants look at something and say, hey, this guy deserves leniency, or this is a case that we're going to exercise our discretion and not prosecute, we do that. But that is exercised, I believe, on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
I don't think it's my job to say, hey, I'm not going to prosecute a whole class of crimes.
I gotcha.
So
I gotcha. Interesting. So also something I was wanting to get at was you are an attorney, and then you do have to do prosecutions, and then what we were just talking about. But then I would like to know the changes of responsibility from you were an attorney, and then now as a district attorney, head of your office. What I know that so Dad complimented you on your budgeting skills and putting together budgets. What are some other things, and we can talk about your budget as well. What are some other hats that you wear as a elected official, because you're not just an attorney? I want to know all the hats of your position, so to say.
There's quite a bit.
Cool.
I've been in that office for a long time before I decided, to resign and run. And it is different when you're in the role of district attorney. There's all sorts of you got the big picture view of the entire office. So first off is staffing, making sure I've got the right people in the right positions. And that, I will say, that was one of the things in year one that took me some time. I wound up going and talking to my pastor because I was having some miscues that way. And he said, give yourself grace. These are not easy personnel decisions,
right,
are
for
not
sure.
easy things, but matching the right people to the right spots so I can put the right team in place and I don't have time to micromanage.
Right.
I need to have good people that know when to come to me, but that I trust to carry out the office. And I've got a really great team. Dobie is my criminal chief, Dobie Casa. He does a fantastic job for me, and I've got good people in different spots. I have an executive prosecutor, Misty King, and Misty helps with a lot of the administrative function in the office, in addition to being a court chief in a court. But they're the team that run the criminal side for me. And then I've got a really terrific civil chief in Tracy Jennings that advises the commissioner's court and keeps our civil side afloat. But number one was staffing the office, putting the right people in the right positions. And hiring. You know, it's a hard environment to hire in.
For sure. Like we're talking about with all the traumatic or, you know, just stressful cases that y'all handle as well. And this isn't somebody that's going to just be driving a truck or maybe delivering mail or whatever. These are pretty responsible positions, you know, so you do have to have the right people. If not, you're just going to be right back in it looking for the right person again. So, So what else? I kind of cut you off right there.
Oh, sure. And then I have the county attorney role that I talked about. So I get pulled in on major things with the county. We had that technological conversion a couple of years ago.
Right.
And we did a lot of advising, you know, in that capacity, legal position with the county, both in the merging and other stuff, and major employment issues within the county. We get pulled in on that, and I'll help with that. We're very proactive on criminal investigations. I do my best to either personally attend or have one of my experienced attorneys, and then usually my chief investigator, Ty Davis, or one of our other investigators will go to every murder scene that we have in Wichita County. I've just found it's invaluable to see it with my own eyes. So when you go to try the case a year and a half later, it's still, I have it, you can just get, having been at the scene, it helps, you know, it just helps so much to explain it to a jury that's harder to do from just photographs.
Right.
And we do that. We provide a lot of advice in law enforcement on investigations. So we just work hand in hand. Ultimately, the law enforcement decisions or the law enforcement make those decisions, but we're with them to help with warrants and to help the standards of probable cause. And then we have the grand jury, which has an investigative role. And so in a lot of our major investigations, we'll pull witnesses in before the case is indicted. You can pull them in front of the grand jury and tie down their testimony, and so investigate whether it's alibi witnesses or I had a murder case where a guy confessed to somebody, and we wound up tying her down. And so that way, when the trial rolls around, she can't deviate because she's sworn under oath as to what was said.
Right.
You know, to her under oath. So there's a major investigative hat that we wear, hand in hand with law enforcement. Ultimately, it's their investigation, not ours, but it's a tremendous partnership and teamwork. We've got great relationships with Chief Borrego and the Wichita Falls Police Department, Iowa Park, Burke, Electra, the Texas Rangers, Sheriff Duke and his team. And so we work with all of them on our major investigations.
Good.
Budgeting is another major function in the office.
Yeah, I was curious about that because, man, one, I don't even know what goes into an attorney's office, and then two, I wanted to get in with you of like what you have to do to consider making a budget. And is it a yearly budget or a quarterly thing? We can get into that, and then just walk us through what you have to, as the head of your office, to consider to know that you and your teams can be covered for the rest of the year.
Sure. So the budgeting process starts usually in March. And we have meetings with Judge Gossam, and then your dad is the commissioner that is over the DA's office, the liaison. So we'll meet with them and walk through kind of what our needs are and what we're seeing. They give us an idea of whether it's a good budget year or a bad budget year, depending on what the anticipated tax revenues are. And so we work through that, and I do a proposed budget. Judge Gossam then makes the decision of whether to incorporate that or not. And I've had great relationships with them in the court. Now, my approach, I'm a fiscal conservative. And so when I came into office, one of the things I did was I knew I wanted to get some salaries for our mid and upper level attorney positions up because I wanted to be able to retain
Right.
really good people. And I thought to do that, I'm going to have to shrink the office a little
Okay.
bit. So I think I wound up cutting 3 positions and was able to work to in a budget neutral or close to budget neutral way to do more, to stretch the money so I wasn't going with a big ask to the commissioner's court. So I could be fiscally conservative but be responsible and be able to retain attorneys, and we've had some really good success with that.
That's awesome. And I like your take on that because I worked at a factory for several years, and we always complained that they required certain positions. I worked maintenance, so I was having to fix the machines and whatnot, and then there was people ahead of me that would do I would work on electronics, but they would work on the programming side of things, and that is a really, really you deserve a lot of money if you're doing something like that.
Sure.
And then we would get mad that our bosses or whoever wouldn't be able to find help because they weren't willing to spend the money hourly or yearly, whatever, to get people. Or maybe there wasn't somebody in this area that was the right fit for the job. They couldn't convince somebody from the DFW area or San Antonio or something to move here because the pay wasn't good enough. And we'd be like, it's clear as day to know that you can get a better candidate for the job. And like you said, hold on to them. That was your goal, to have someone to stay if you're willing to put a little bit more money. But I also like your take as well of, and nothing against the people that, or the positions that, you cut 3 back, but you kind of tighten the office up to get a little bit higher grade across the board. So, but it's a good take on it because you have a very responsible position, and you and your whole team needs to be on top. So you got to kind of be willing to pay to play, so to say. And so I'm glad that the county's willing to do that and back you up on it for that. So clearly you had good success with people that you've had. Have you had people stay the longevity since you've hired them?
Yeah, we've had, we've been very blessed that way.
Cool.
So we've definitely seen that pay off.
Good. Yeah. It sounds like it went just according to plan. So that's amazing. And let's see. So we're talking about budgeting, and then what all besides payroll and it takes money to get out and record evidence and work hand in hand with these people. What are some kind of miscellaneous things that you have to consider in your budget? Because I'm sure there's a gray zone. Like, we don't know exactly what we're going to get into because all crimes are different, but I know that I need to have this extra fluff gray zone money. What do you consider that?
Sure.
Do you see what I'm saying or asking?
Yes, I do. One of the things when I took over that I knew I wanted to increase was our expert budget. So,
Okay.
We try a case and we need to bring an expert in.
Okay.
And the reason I do that, so these child sexual abuse cases, the dynamics are very bizarre.
Okay.
I tried grandpa that was molesting his granddaughter. She was living with grandpa and grandma, and grandma worked and left early in the morning. Grandpa took her to school, picked her up from school, so there was a lot of time they were alone, one-on-one. The girl testified that he never did anything except when grandma was in the house. And I have seen that dynamic over and over and over, and I'm like, that's so counterintuitive because you'd think, they're going to do something when they're alone with the child.
Right.
And I had an expert that explained it to me.
Okay.
They do it so they have an alibi.
Okay.
If grandma's in the next room, they have that much control over the child never cries out, then guess who testifies for the defendant at the trial? Grandma does. Says, well, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
And I've seen that dynamic just over and over and over. So if I call a forensic psychologist that's worked with child predators and they can testify, this is a real dynamic. We see these things. Or you have the child that, in that case, the girl, she was in puberty when she started, she turned suicidal and was cutting and all of this. It was only when she hit puberty, it's very common that kids, that's when they start realizing how dark what has been happening to them is.
Yeah.
And so then that's when she makes an outcry. It's called a delayed outcry. For most people, they think, I'm going to think like an adult. If a female is, raped, then they're going to run and call the police the first chance they have. Kids do not think that way.
Yeah. And some some adults don't think that way.
Sure.
And it's a real easy thing to say, well, if I was in that position, I would do X, Y, and Z. And I just want to say, shut up. To those people that have not been in those type of positions, you can't speak for other people. So, I'm glad that our attorney's offices and other people are willing to sit down and listen to those victims.
Well, and that's so important, Levi, and that's what I saw in these cases. And if I have the budget to pull an expert in,
good.
then they can testify. And then these weaknesses in the case, that seem weird to a jury because they're out of the jury's experience, they suddenly hear one of our experts say, no, this is very common. This is very typical to what we see in our cases. So, then you can flip it in closing and say, ladies and gentlemen, if the child was going to make this up, they're going to say grandpa did this when they were alone.
Yeah.
They didn't tell that. They said grandma was in the other room. That's not a story a child's going to make up, that she's telling you what happened. And by the way, our expert told you this is exactly the type of thing they do because they're that predatory and they think about alibis. When we use experts,
God, that's evil.
I
Yeah.
get life sentences on these cases.
Okay.
So one of my first priorities in the budget was to build in the resources I needed
Good.
to have experts on these child molester cases, because we're locking these people up and putting them away for life in these major sentences, and it gives the jury the tool to be able to do that. And so that was a major priority to me coming in year one, and I had tremendous support from the Commissioner's Court on that.
Good. Love to hear that. And is there anything, that's a great example of just, one, you don't know how many cases you're going to get. You don't know how many are going to be, similar to the story you just told, or whether it be two adults in a conflict. So you don't really know. Is there any other miscellaneous type of fees and problems that you'll have to consider throughout the year? Because that was a really good explanation like that.
Just all the stuff that goes into operating the budget. We've invested in some smart boards for the office, and that lets us present, be more effective in court with the juries. And we're able to utilize technology better and simplify things for juries. So that's I think it was 2 years ago that we went to the Commissioner's Court and asked, hey, we'd like to allocate these resources for a one-time purchase of two smart boards. So things like that. Yeah. One thing I'd talk about kind of along those lines that I looked at, that a hat that I wear, is just identifying needs and trying to connect resources to those needs.
Cool. Okay.
I'd been in the office for nearly 16 and a half years.
Okay.
And we had never had a victim assistance coordinator.
Okay.
So how it would work, the prosecutor would have a role in contacting victims, the investigator would have a role in contacting victims, and then sometimes the felony secretaries would have a role in that.
Okay.
But you know how it is when everybody shares a piece of a responsibility and they're not really trained in it, things start to fall between the cracks.
Yes. Okay.
I've been in the middle of trial and had a murder victim's family. We have a quick 15-minute break, and I need to run to the bathroom, and I need to get my notes together and all. And I just walk off and leave the family there because I've got all this stuff I need to do as a lawyer. And that can be very cold to the family, even though we don't intend to be rude.
Right.
And so one thing that I really wanted, that was a priority when I took over, was getting a position for a victim assistance coordinator.
Right.
In 2019, I went to a seminar, and they were talking about this Attorney General grant that you could apply for a grant. So we immediately, we just barely made the deadline, learn of it. The deadline was coming up. So we worked hard to get this application off. We had about a 1 in 5 chance of getting the grant, according to the numbers of people who applied. Okay. And all, but I got the Commissioner's Court on board. We created it as our proposal was a part-time position. I thought if I can get the position created, we can start working on where we come up with the benefits and making it full-time. And I thought I would get buy-in from the Commissioner's Court on that. And so we got the grant. That's probably the most exciting thing that happened in the first year.
Good.
And so we created the position. It was part-time for about a year and a half. Okay. And then the lady that was in that position left. It was a good opportunity to, I went and made a pitch, eliminated a position. We took some of the insurance, the benefits, and attached it to this victim assistance coordinator position. Commissioner Beecham said something that just resonated with me. I had tremendous support from all of them, but he
Good.
said, we spend so much money on indigent defense and on defendants because they have to do it and they're entitled to lawyers and all that. But he said it finally feels good to spend some money on victims.
Good.
And so anyway, we got it fully funded. And then amazingly, there was a lady whose husband is civil service at the base. He's retired military. Okay. She had been a victim assistance coordinator in New York and Washington State when they lived up there. She'd had some kids and she was ready to go back to work. And so she saw our ad. So we got somebody with experience on that.
Oh,
her name's Ebony. She's fantastic.
Cool. Awesome.
And, I'll brag on her just a little bit.
Good. Yeah. Shout her out. Yeah.
For 16 months with COVID, we were shut down.
Okay.
Well, can you imagine if you're a parent of a child that's been molested or you're a member of a murder victim's family that, you're part of the family and you want to see justice, there's a lot of hand-holding to be done when the courts are shut down.
For sure.
Ebony stayed just in touch with them nonstop during that time.
Good. That's awesome.
And then as trials resumed last August, she's in there when she builds this rapport with the children. When I did the Miguel Matthew case, the lady that was going 103 miles per hour and 2 times the legal limit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How recent was that?
That was in April.
Okay.
I tried her for felony murder because she had a car full of kids. There were 5 children in the car from age, there was age 1 to age 7. I think they were all under 8. She took the exit off of 281 on Southwest Parkway, that strong curve, going 103 miles an hour, flipped the car. Everybody in the vehicle was thrown out, and then there was a 4-year-old little boy that was killed.
Oh, man, okay.
So I tried her for murder because she's in the course of committing felony DWI. She commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of another.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry, DWI with child passengers, the felony.
Okay.
And so anyway, when we tried her, the little boy's siblings had to testify.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
And so we went to the school and met with them, and Ebony went with me. She formed an immediate bond with them.
Good.
And then when they had to be there, she walked them through. She sat in the courtroom, made eye contact with them when they were on the stand.
Good.
And was just, a very tangible presence in their case. So,
I don't have a whole lot of experience with being in courts or anything, but it reminds me, have you seen, it's Big Daddy, the movie with Adam Sandler a long time ago?
I've never seen that.
Well, at the end of it, or towards the end, they go to court. It's over custody of this little boy. Awesome little kid, but he got shy during the movie, and Adam Sandler would say, hey, put your glasses on. And then I think they told him it made him invisible or something, and it gave him the confidence. Well, I see Ebony's position giving the same confidence to those victims that the sunglasses did to that boy. So that's such an important role to play with a young child, or it could be an adult as well, just being so nervous, or maybe they have to stand up to their abuser or whatever.
Yes.
And so that is so important, and us as a county are so lucky to have that position filled by the right person.
I'm so thankful for that, and I appreciate your dad's support and all of the commissioners' court. It was a unanimous vote to create it and fund it.
That is awesome.
The other thing, along those lines, she goes to specialized training. So whether it's a domestic violence victim or a child victim, she has unique training that as prosecutors we don't have. So it has just really enabled us to serve victims in a better way.
Yeah, for sure. Just like another arm of your office, basically, but a strong one for sure. And it seems so necessary. It seems common sense to have that position. So I'm glad that you got that through. And then so we've been talking about budget and what you consider, but I'd like to get on the topic of you were working for the district attorney's office up until 2018, correct?
2017.
2017, and then you decided, okay, I would like to take a bigger position. I think that I can help with X, Y, and Z and do better in X, Y, and Z. What were some of the topics that I read a quick little KFDX thing about you a while back, but what were some of the things that you really felt strong enough to quit your great job to get a better job?
It was, for me, it was mostly about vision. I had
Okay.
a vision of where I wanted to lead that office,
Cool.
and I realized that there was sort of just a ceiling that I was running up
Okay.
against.
Okay.
For example, the Victim Assistance Coordinator
Mm-hmm.
grant, that was something I was able to seek because I was the district attorney.
Perfect.
And I had never really coveted something like that. I'm more of a behind-the-scenes guy by nature.
Okay.
To be in the trenches, but I had there were specific things that I wanted to see done in the office
Yeah.
in a way that I wanted to lead, and it became clear to me that I needed to be in charge to do that. They say budgets are a budget is basically just an expression of your goals and your priorities.
Yeah.
And so I really needed to be in charge of the budget and in charge of the office to execute that.
I
that
gotcha.
vision.
I gotcha. And while talking about all this, and you literally just brought it up, you have created such a leadership position. How did you know, and what point of your life did you know, like, I can be a leader in this? And because you sound like a hell of an attorney, but now you're not just an attorney. You are leading an office. You do have employees under you. What kind of struck with you to be like, okay, I can step out of my shell and become a leader?
It's kind of interesting. There's a biblical principle that I
Okay.
think I've seen in my life, that if you step up and you take leadership or ownership of things, God tends to increase the circle that He entrusts to you.
Okay.
As you're faithful in small things, He adds to that. And what I saw in the office, I started functioning. I was mentoring some of the young lawyers,
Okay.
helping them on their misdemeanor trials, sitting with them, and this was my first position. It was before I had a leadership position, but I was functioning in that role.
Right. Right.
And as a result of that, the door opened for me to become misdemeanor chief.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then, I worked hard in that, worked hard on my felony cases, helped a lot of the felony attorneys in the office, provided them support, and then the door opened for me to become chief felony prosecutor.
Okay. I gotcha.
And then that led into being first assistant, and then that eventually led into being DA. So it was one of those things where it started small. 15 years ago would have told you, no, I don't have any ambition to be
Right.
district attorney or to
Right.
run. But God started opening those doors, and
Right.
it's so my encouragement to anyone listening. I
Cool.
think if you're faithful in small things, God will increase the faithfulness there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Exactly what you just said. And some kind of rule of thumb that I've been learning over the past years is stop wanting, say a kid about to graduate high school is listening to this right now. Stop just thinking of like, I'm ready to be graduated from law school. Just start thinking, where do I even want to, go to law school at? Where do I want to do my undergrad at? Or where can I see myself living for 4 years? Do those teeny tiny baby steps and enjoy the whole process. And then you just slowly migrate to your end goal, know where you want to go. And then, just slowly go there. And it kind of sounds like you were just doing the right things and you started seeing doors open through the journey, and then the journey kind of led you to or opened your eyes to see where you could go.
Jim Elliot was a missionary that was martyred in South America
Okay.
in the 50s. But he had a quote. There's a fascinating book of his called Shadow of the Almighty. But
Okay.
Really good book. But the quote of his that says, whatever situation God places you in, live it to the hilt.
Okay.
And, I think so oftentimes people are like, I don't like what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
don't want to be in this spot.
Yeah.
If you will do the best wherever you are, God will open other doors, either in the organization you're in or somewhere else. But I've seen that principle over and over in my career, and I've seen
Yeah.
it in other places. I think a lot of times people are very discontented and they say,
Yeah.
well, I don't like where I am. But if you are all there where you are, other opportunities will open.
Yeah, I agree. And I can apply that to my story of where, say you were giving it your all, and then rather than looking for the next thing or looking for to better my position, I could have been giving it my all the whole time, felt uncomfortable in the position I was in, and I could have just kind of melted there and been, I call an Eeyore type, just woe is me, sad, whatever, just a sad company man. But so what I did was I was trying to give it my all in my old job, and then I was like, man, I really don't like, one, I know exactly what I'm going to make at the end of the year. And then two, I just don't really like how this position is. I don't like the whole culture of this job. And then so giving it my all, seeing the results, I noticed that I need to start looking for greener pastures. And then that led me into self-employment and my entrepreneurship journey.
That's great.
And then so, whether it be, taking the next step in the position that you're in now or just completely leap of faith to something else, I agree. Just give it your absolute all. And your windows will start kind of clearing up and seeing like, okay, my skill set got so good, I can apply for this completely different job that, 10 years ago I didn't know, whatever it be. So I really like, that point you just brought up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to run to the restroom. I'll be right back. Okay. And we'll cut it right out.
You sound so much like your dad.
Man, I get that a lot, but I've just spent so many, hours and miles in the truck with him back in the day, and you know how he is. He's stuck on that phone, and he always has been. So I've picked up so many mannerisms from him. Just you know how it is. But I'll get us right back in here, and we're back. So I've just been really enjoying hearing all of your experiences, and you have a lot of experience in this county government of ours, and but you are an elected official. I wanted to know from say 2017, and then when did you have to run? 2018?
That's correct. There was a Republican primary in March of 2018.
And then so we can talk about that. I want to talk about your experience actually running and doing the whole campaign thing. And then did you run unopposed in November, or did you have to run against a Democratic candidate?
I was unopposed.
Okay, cool. So in 2017, you decide, okay, I see a different vision for this office. I would like to run, take control, and get there. So for people that haven't ran campaigns or are interested in, tell us your experience, just like about hanging signs, about doing door hangers, or talking to communities. How'd you start? What was in the middle, and what was the end?
It was a whole, stretching and growing kind of experience. I can be a bashful guy at heart, and so having to get out there and meet the public, it was learning a whole new skill set.
Yeah, getting out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Cool.
The advice I have, first off, is anybody that's running, I think it's important to answer the question, I'm running because.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I like that.
I will do 1, 2, and, A, B, and C.
Yeah, cool.
And so that gives you a way to communicate to the voters. And so I would talk to people and just, tell them what my vision was, what my experience was.
And then in what settings? Did you have to go door to door?
I did some of that.
Okay.
I went to, talk to senior citizens
Okay.
at the Green Door and at the kitchen.
Gotcha.
What else? Just lots of local Republican Party events.
I gotcha.
We had candidate forums that, the Kiwanis or Rotary would put on.
Gotcha.
There was the big MSU debate that the Republican Party does. That was like the big event.
Cool.
And so it's just there were opportunities to communicate that this is what if you trust me with your vote, this is what I will be about doing.
Cool.
And so it was very surprisingly valuable. You think, people are so jaundiced or cynical and it would be embarrassing, but I really met so many nice people out there that were supportive and kind. Now, not everybody on social media is that way, but
very true. They're a little bit braver on social media.
You have to have thick skin to run.
That's
for sure.
very true. Very true. And then, so were you out there hanging or driving T-post in the ground, hanging big old signs?
I drove. My daddy probably would have been embarrassed because he grew up on a ranch in Jack County.
Yeah.
And my mom was from the Metroplex, and I'm more of a city boy than I am the whole ranching thing.
Right.
But I learned how to drive a mean T-post.
Good.
So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then, did a family from Owl Park, did the Gilberts help you out a lot? I feel like I remember them posting a lot for you in 2018.
Carol Gilbert was one of the key reasons that I won. I mean,
That's
they were all
awesome.
supportive. Nate, her son, is one of my best friends.
Awesome.
Carol and Jim were very supportive, but I think Carol went all over Owl Park for me.
Yeah, that's a good family and a good group to be in, super connected. And I remember them just really representing you and pushing your narrative out there. So that's a good lesson to build a strong team. And then I'm curious about that. And then I'm also curious about funding. But what did, like Carol and Jim, what was your team like you, or around you like? What was that like to build it? And did you build it on accident, or did it kind of just come naturally? What happened there?
You know, I'm very blessed to have been in this community most of my life. You know, grew up in Burke Burnett. We started going to First Baptist in Wichita Falls in 1985, so I've been a long-term member of that church.
Cool.
And then, you know, being back since 2001, just between my parents and church and, you know, just have so many lifelong friends and people, you know, classmates that I saw at my reunion that are local, just all of those connections that the team kind of emerged from that.
Okay,
and
cool.
It definitely, I hate to quote Hillary Clinton on anything, but it definitely does take a village. You know, you've got all of those, you've got to have that support group. You know, it's a hard job and you do a lot of it by yourself. I'm sure you've seen that with your dad, but at the same time, you're just so blessed with people like the Gilbert family that buys into you. And
Right.
you know, they help a lot.
Right. And then, so what all is necessary, because you do a lot while you're running for yourself, and what were the necessary components for your campaign to run smoothly that were jobs that you couldn't do by yourself, that you did have a team or friend or family help you with?
I wound up, one of the big things, you know, Wichita County is a big place. And so I did, you probably know Jimmy Banks from Iowa Park, but anyway,
I think so, yeah.
Jimmy had just retired, but he helped me put my signs all over Wichita Falls. But in the outlying communities, Carol had kind of a team in Iowa Park, and then I had some other people who helped in Burke Burnett that helped with the signage. It's just it's a lot to kind of cover everything and get those yard signs out. And it's really funny, you know, people will message you, and I had personal Facebook, I had campaign Facebook, I had some emails, and then you have posts, and people post their addresses and with their signs, and you know, I drove all over the county putting them out. I would drive, you know, the bane of my existence were houses that don't have signs on the curb. Because you're like, which house does this go to? But, you know, if they don't get their sign, then they post, I thought I supported you, but you didn't get me a sign like you said you would, so I don't support you anymore.
Oh, my God.
So, you know, there's just a lot. You sign up for a lot of abuse when you run.
Yes, I agree. You put yourself out there in the public, and then you are a what they call a public servant. So
Absolutely.
I like the ones that take that role seriously. But like you said, you got to take a lot of good with the bad. So, but hopefully you've experienced more good than the bad. So
absolutely, I made a lot of I met some wonderful people. You know, just constantly reminded what a great community this is.
That's good.
But I made a lot of connections when I ran that I'm still, you know, very, you know, good friends with.
Good.
So it was a positive experience.
Good. That's good. And then, so I'm curious, it's not cheap at all to run any campaign. And then, so what was your approach to funding? Because I filled out a lot of mailers for my dad when he was running, and then we mailed it, did a lot of stickers, you know, everything. So what was your approach to that? How did you go about it? And then what kind of support did you get back from that?
I did a mailer, I think, a fundraising letter. I had a fundraising event. I raised more from the mailer than I did that. And then I just talked, you know, you have to script the courage and really believe in yourself and call up and give your vision to people. And then that's hard for me. You know, it was easier for me to ask people to vote for me than it was to ask for financial support.
Right. It's just an awkward position to be in.
It really is. And then I wound up self-funding some of it. I had some ability to do that. You know, I was fully committed to the race, and so that's, as you know from your dad's campaigns, they're not cheap.
Yeah, for sure. And then, but that goes to show you had a lot of skin in the game with you funding a lot of it yourself. And then, I mean, did you have to take out any loans to get it accomplished, or was it all just out of your pocket? You know,
it was. I was blessed that way, so I had some resources to be able to do that.
Good. So just got to be ready. If you're planning on doing this yourself, just know that it is a tough challenge, but it can be done, and plenty of people have done it before you. So that's good, man. That's all quality, good experience, and it's just why I like this. You know, some people just flat out don't know these things until, you know, someone like you may have thought that, oh yeah, I've seen this, and I'm experienced enough to go. And then you probably were learning as you were going in the whole campaigning process, and probably a new problem popped up every single day. And so
there's that, and you get your spiel down, so I could give that in my sleep, while I was running for office. And you say it so many times that kind of gets stuck on repeat. One cool thing about fundraising that really touched me, I got a letter at a PO box for the campaign, and I opened it up, and it was my kindergarten Sunday school teacher.
Okay, cool.
And I think she's retired. She lives in the Panhandle.
Okay.
And she saw I was running, and she wrote me a sweet note, said, "I'm so proud of the little boy that
Awesome,
I knew
man.
at the Methodist Church is
Yeah.
where we went back then." And she said, "I'm so proud of you, and I wanted to just help you a little bit in the campaign."
That's
that meant as
awesome.
much as any of the large donations that
for
I got.
sure, man, for sure. And just speaks so much to you that someone that remembered you all those years later and still willing to support you. So that just kind of goes to show if you stick on the right path from a young age, people will notice that. And she clearly did. She still admired you all those years later, and then turned around to help you out.
Sure.
So that's awesome. So tell me, just while campaigning, then you have to get towards when was it, April that we do the primaries?
It was March. I think it was March 7th.
Okay. And then what was that like? Did you have to go up and do any in-person debates or?
So we had the Republican women sponsored a forum.
Okay.
And so it was, I think each candidate had 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
There were a bunch of us on stage.
Gotcha.
The DA candidates, the judicial candidates, I think Pat Fallon and
Okay. Yeah.
Estes that he was running against.
Right.
And so that was more just kind of a meet and greet with a brief thing. And then the Rotary Club, one of our local Rotary clubs had a candidate debate where we were given the same questions, and there was some back and forth.
Gotcha.
And then KUZ sponsored a TV debate, which was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
This is a little outside my comfort zone with the mic and the headset.
Yeah.
But KUZ, you walk in and the camera's there, and then there's a picture of the anchors over to the side of your periphery, but you can see them underneath on this monitor.
Okay.
And then when they ask you a question, you pop up and you're watching yourself.
Okay. Weird.
It was very weird. But we went through that, and then there was the Republican Party did a candidates debate in the Western that Toby McDuff moderated, and it was pretty extensive. I think it was about 30 minutes long.
Okay.
We had a lot of time for give and take with back and forth.
Good.
Which I enjoyed that because it gave you time to really spell out what your vision is and why you're running.
Cool. That's good. And I hope that our community can get more and more involved in that. And that was kind of a similar position that I took with this was we just need to know who's out there running.
Sure.
Sure, you may have, if you're lucky, you may have seen someone's Facebook ad or like I remember Lee Harvey did a huge Facebook campaign. It was one of the first local government people that I seen running on Facebook, and I was like, good idea. Who's ever helping him is got him in the right market, and then and I think he won that year as well. But anyways, I'm glad that our community is doing that because we just need to know our options. And then I was just telling someone the other day that it could have been yesterday. I no longer really want to be considered a Republican or a Democrat. I just want to be someone for Texas people. And I want to use my platform to give the information out to everybody, and then I really just like this long form conversation. We get to really know who John is, and it's not just that hot clickbait or two people arguing, and I just like giving you the floor. We can know your interest and know your experiences and stuff. So I really like that, and I'm glad the MSU did something like that, and I hope they get, even more involved as well. So that's cool. I'm glad. And what was your experience? You said it was kind of awkward, but I guess overall good that you got to have a little bit more time to explain yourself.
Yeah, yes, I really, it was a good opportunity.
Good. And then in 2018, you end up winning, and then what it looked like your first couple months in.
It's like running around with your hair on fire, and it was
a lot of damage control, kind of.
Yeah, and it was just coming into a new office. There were a lot of things that happened in year one. We were in a technology conversion,
Right.
and then my civil chief, Meredith Kennedy, who was a very close friend. I have so much respect for her. She's a great lawyer. And your dad, I think, she always gave him great advice when she was in that job. Well, when Judge Fudge decided to retire, she was going to put in for the appointment, and she wound up getting the appointment, which she's a fantastic judge.
Good,
I'm so
good.
proud of her on the bench, and she's strong. She sentences the child molesters to large sentences, but very fair, but very tough.
Okay, good.
But I had to go through the transition of this is somebody I thought would be on my staff long term, and then I have this tremendous hole that's left by her absence.
Right, exactly.
And so I've been very blessed. Tracy does a fantastic job, but it was just that year one. We had so many things, just were in a state of flux and change. And
I gotcha. And then I can tell that you were for basically helping the county get back to the 21st century with the technology updates and everything. Did you have any pushback on anything? I know that just listening to my dad's stories and experiences and the other commissioners, some of them had pushback because we have an older crowd at the county government. But the commissioners and other people wanted to get everything on a cloud-based system and then get everything back on computers and away from the stone and chisel that we'd been using. And I know that they faced a little bit of pushback from that. Did you have any pushback in your first-year experience with anything that you were dedicated on?
There were a lot of growing pains.
Okay.
The implementation was not this has nothing to do with the commissioner's court, but it was one of those things where, for example, we were told we could do discovery. So in our criminal cases, everything we have basically is made available to the defense.
Okay.
Which is a very good thing, but we've got to be able to do that. Well, we had been having to have it all pushed out through email.
Okay.
And our previous provider didn't have the ability to do a portal where you can just upload it to a portal and then they can go in and, in the convenience of their office and download what you have and review it and all. We were told the portal will be ready to go day one. I think it was 6 to 8 months before we had the portal going.
No.
It was a long time, and there were a lot of conversations which we eventually got fixed. And the portal's working well, and it's been a major step forward. But anytime you do a major transition like that, there's a lot of growth pains.
I gotcha. And are you? How old are you now?
I'm 48.
Okay, so you're kind of young compared to some of the people up there, and I can just see it being kind of problematic of you fully understanding something like a portal and then have to explain it to maybe someone that has to approve your budget or whatever the case may be. I can just see, like you explained it, growing pain, so to say. But man, something you just brought up, I wanted to get at. It was something funny that we just hit. It'll come back to me, but. Man, you're in it, and then you're helping grow, and you're changing the office the way that you see fit. What was something just kind of on a lighter side? It could be a dark side. Anyways, what was some weird things that you noticed right from the jump when you got your new position as head of the office? Whether it be a bad case or just something wacky that you noticed that you didn't notice before inside your office. I mean, any weird experiences?
First off, if I ever get a tattoo, I'm not a tattoo guy, but if I ever did, I think it'll be don't read the comments.
Okay.
So, and I guess I did a better job of not doing that before I became DA. But then, you see a plea bargain that we do. We have a limited number of jury weeks a year, and we have hundreds of felony cases, and there are a whole host of reasons for why we need to do plea bargaining. I always say, it's not whether or not a district attorney's office will do plea bargaining, is it an appropriate plea?
Okay.
Do they know that you're tough and that if they go to trial, they're going to get worse than what, but there's a whole lot of reasons for that to happen. But we do pleas. For example, in kid cases, I wish I could send every child molester to prison for life, but depending on the victim, and I always try to put them in the their needs to be number one.
Right.
If they have protective parents, I try to listen to the parents and the child, and then you've got to weigh the evidence in the case, but we have to make some tough decisions sometimes. And then, so oftentimes the public doesn't understand that. And you read these things about, horrible things online. And so that whole, the keyboard warriors and all of that, year one, that was like, wow, they really,
Don't hold back, not one bit.
They do not.
I heard a fun expression, and I won't say who I heard it from, but the expression was cave people. And I was like, oh, like, my first thought was a caveman type person. They said, no. Cave people stands for complains about virtually everything.
Oh, that's perfect.
And I was like, man, that is so true. You can see anything that Texoma's homepage post, and then boom, 100 comments immediately of, I hate these government officials. They don't know nothing, and just on and on and on. And it's like, man, you'll never be able to please everybody.
You won't. And, one thing I've enjoyed to do, I do a lot of community outreach, whether it's with Leadership Wichita Falls or different organizations.
Good.
One of the things I talk about, most people don't know that children have to testify in child abuse cases, child sexual abuse cases. The Sixth Amendment to the Confrontation Clause of the U.S. Constitution gives a defendant the right to confront his accusers. And that applies to child victims. There's a certain age with certain requirements where they can testify by closed-circuit TV. But over I think it's 12. I always have to check. But it's either 12 or older or over 12. They have to testify in court. So the oldest child in the Sarah Woody child torture case, he had to testify in court with Sarah Woody, who had a godlike power over him, who had deprived him of food, deprived him of the bathroom, beaten him, all of this. And then he's having to testify and say what she did. He did fine when I was handling him on the stand. When the defense attorney, who was doing his job, I don't have any criticism there. But when he was examining him, the little boy went back into the child torture victim posture and just started agreeing with whatever Sarah Woody. He said, "You made up all of this, didn't you?" And the little boy's like, "Yes, sir." Sarah was the only good mother that you ever had. Yes, sir. Now, my jury saw through that. They understood what had happened.
Man, kind of having to relive that.
Yes. And so when we make decisions on cases, it's not, I've done probation on certain, child abuse cases. I don't enjoy doing that. But I've got to look at what's in the best interest of the kids, including, can they survive testifying? Will it destroy them to have to testify? Is there something that I can do to protect the public? In a child abuse case, there's some cases where, the person would become a licensed sex offender. They'd be in the registry. They'd have to go through sex offender treatment, which is not some touchy-feely thing. It's very hardcore. We get a lot of them revoked that fell out of the program, and I'm able to send them to prison without ever having to put the child through testifying. But there's a lot of reasons that we do that. And I'm the guy that's gone in and gotten life without paroles and life sentences against molesters, and I would do it across the board. But it's a very, complicated job, and my number one goal is always the protection of the kids. And there's just so much that I think these keyboard warriors don't understand, and they never will, and you just have to have thick skin. I look back, one thing I would connect up, the campaign was hard. You got to grow thick skin, but it's also useful to have the thick skin when you're in a position, like that I'm in, or like your dad is in.
For sure. And then I think with those harder positions, like you were just talking about, examples in court, man, back to your employee, Ebony, it's so important to have someone like that that could just be there and be a support for those kiddos or whoever it is. And man, just such an important role, because it's hard hearing these things. And like you said, the defense attorney's just doing his job. He could just be, what is it called? A court appointed attorney. He could just be one of those and just looking for work. But man, it is hard. So such important roles that you, Ebony, whoever's working in these cases. But I like your take on it of just the victim's number one, and you're going to do whatever you can. And there's really no gray area. I feel like, in my personal opinion, y'all can't attack me for that, but in my opinion, like, there's no gray area for child abuse of any sort.
Absolutely.
Especially now that I'm a dad, I'm like, no, throw them up, or throw them away, lock the key away, whatever, do what you have to do. But there is a order to everything, and you have laws that you have to follow. And anyways, I wanted to ask you if there is, how do you stay up to date with the times and the laws? Do you have to go to any workshops, or does the county pay for you to have any training? How does that go?
So that's a great question. We have an annual conference that we go to. networking is very important
Cool.
to me.
Good.
So when something out of the blue happens or something unusual happens, there are DAs statewide that I've gotten to know that I pick
Good.
up the phone and call them. I've got a great team at the DA's office, but it also just helps to find out, what are they doing in some of these other counties.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is how I found out about the Victim Assistance
Good.
grant.
Yeah.
But we go to the annual conference, and then there's an elected conference that I go to. In addition to that, one of my priorities since I've been in office has been to provide training both to the DA's office and to local law enforcement.
Okay,
and
cool.
So I personally will do training on negotiations, cross-examination, closing statements. I've trained prosecutors in my office on those
Cool.
things. So I do some in-house training.
Cool.
And then I've brought in some, in year one, I brought in Richard Alpert, who was in charge of intoxication prosecution for
Okay.
Tarrant County. He was on the board for MAD nationwide. He
Okay.
literally wrote the book on intoxication investigation and prosecution.
Okay.
And so he trained prosecutors in our office and a lot of the local agencies on how to investigate intoxication cases, especially intoxication manslaughter
Okay.
cases. And
Okay.
so that's really good to make those connections.
Yeah, for sure.
And, so when I did the Miguel Matthew case, I talked to Richard quite a bit, so you build those relationships.
Good.
Year two, I brought in a suffocation expert and a child drowning expert.
Okay.
And we did a cross training with local law enforcement in
Okay.
our office on that.
Okay.
This year, we brought in the guy that trains the Rangers on
cool.
on confessions.
Okay. Okay.
And so he came in and did a training of local law enforcement on tips that he has learned
Cool.
on how to take confessions or take statements from
Okay.
people.
Okay.
So we try to isolate a need, and then every year we bring in, use some of our discretionary money in the DA's office budget to bring in somebody.
Cool. Okay.
And I've just seen that pay real dividends. So,
Good.
training, I stay up to speed and, by going to those conferences and seminars, and
Yeah.
also try to bring people in that keep not only my office, but local law enforcement.
Good. That's awesome. And then so it's good to know that you didn't just go to school years ago and then just like, all right, I'm good to go and I don't need to learn anything else. I'm glad that you and people under you stay up to date and then get more and more training. And then we always get back to this topic on this show is networking. And you just described how important networking is even at a local government level. And just like it is in business, just like it is with the artists that we speak to, networking is so important.
Absolutely.
And I just you've talked about it with your personal experience of like having to break out of your shell, your comfort zone to get in front of people, introduce yourself. But man, it really does pay off. And so I just love to encourage everybody. You know my background. It comes naturally to me to be able to talk to a lot of people. But man, it's so important to know all your resources. And something that me and Dad talked about when he was on here was the differences Wichita County faces compared to Harris County is so much different. Harris County is living a different in a different universe, basically,
sure.
And the problems and the technology that county has to go off day to day is so much different from Wichita County. But it's so good that y'all can link up and learn from those people. Maybe what county's Austin in?
Travis County.
Travis County is facing things that maybe Wichita County won't see for 5 or 10 years, but if y'all can hear those experiences and connect and stay in touch with those people, you can already be ready for something bad to happen.
Well, and you also have, like, we talk to Tarrant a lot, Dallas some as well, but those DA's offices see so many more child sexual abuse cases or intoxication manslaughter cases. And so we can reach out to somebody that is a specialist that just has the volume of cases. And so what are you doing, or, who are you utilizing, and how would you handle this issue? And so I totally agree with you. It was later in my career that I really discovered the value of networking.
Yeah,
and
for
that's
sure.
something I look back on college and law school and probably could have done a lot better job at, but it's just so very important. I also always say, I don't see the full picture. I've got blind spots, and I don't have a monopoly on what the wise thing to do is. And so by reaching out to other people, whether it's in our office, whether it's people, state in different DA's offices
Yeah.
in the state, just taking in different opinions of how would you handle this, what would you do. It really helps you make the best decision.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're just really expanding your tools, your assets, everything. So that's good. I'm glad that y'all are staying on top of that. And continue on this networking thing. Are you involved in any outside of the local government? Are you involved with any volunteer groups or charities? That was a big topic. I really nailed that on because I really admire his work ethic in them. Are you involved with anything like that?
Yes.
Cool. Let's talk about what we're in.
First off, I'm a deacon at First Baptist,
Okay,
and
cool.
that's where I do a lot of my service. I'm, within the church community.
Cool.
It's a great way to give back there. And
Yeah.
then I'm on the board of the kitchen. I
Okay.
think I'm the vice president of the kitchen this
Okay.
year, which is Wichita Falls Meals on Wheels.
Good.
And so I really love that, being able to contribute and help.
I
help
gotcha.
there.
And then what kind of hats are you wearing in those positions? I know a little bit about a deacon, but then what, as a vice president of Meals on Wheels, what are kind of the responsibilities you have there?
We have monthly board meetings,
Okay.
and the vision of the board having, we applied for a grant with the county, partnered with us to
Cool.
do the and some of our local foundations to buy a grant to serve the unincorporated areas of the
Okay.
community with a truck like a refrigerated
Okay.
truck to provide the meals to people that wouldn't fall into Iowa Park or Burke
Cool.
or Wichita Falls proper. So
Gotcha.
we work on that. In my role, bring a legal kind of set. And,
Okay.
and I got, with the public thing, some PR help too. So I wound up, providing them some, legal /PR
Good.
advice sometimes.
Good. Yeah, that's a good position to be in. And just like someone like me could offer, like, hey, if things break in this facility, I can help, get these things going, where you can be like, hey, I can help on the legal side. You just offer a good set of skills to have in a volunteer type program. So that's cool, man. And then anything else you're involved with?
Those are my two
I
big
gotcha.
areas.
I gotcha. What do you do? I know you mentioned golf. What do you do in your spare time? Do you have any spare time to use?
I do. Golf is my favorite thing to do
Cool.
in my spare time. So I love to golf. I'm a hacker. I'm not very good at
Yeah,
it. But
I can't hit a ball if my life depended on
I
it.
heard somebody describe it as active meditation. That
Yeah.
It is. You're so focused on what you're doing on the golf course that you cannot think about anything
Yeah,
else.
That's true. I can apply that to other things. I've been exercising more, so you can't really worry about the grass being too tall if you're under a heavy bar or some dumbbells or something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah, well, that's good, man. Then anything else? I know you kept mentioning nature earlier. You go on any hikes or anything like that?
Yeah, my oldest nephew is 19. He finished his
Okay.
first year at A&M, and we went up to Banff in Canada
Okay.
last week and did a bunch of hiking and canoeing
Cool.
and stuff up
Okay.
there. So it was
Cool.
really pretty and kind
Gotcha.
of fun to have some uncle-nephew
Yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome. And then where exactly did you go? Where'd you just say?
to Banff. It's west of Calgary in
Okay.
the Canadian Rockies.
Okay.
Just a really cool place to visit.
Interesting. How'd you know to go there? Were you recommended? or-
Yes, a friend recommended it.
Okay, cool, man. Cool. That's awesome. I like to just know, like, more, know our people, know who we're talking with. So, actually, I do have a question for you on your cases. You just shared one the other day that took a long time. It was the Christmas one. Was that the Dominique Thrasher case? Something popped up on your Facebook the other day. It was the Christmas Eve.
Okay, that was Miguel Matthew.
Okay.
The little boy that was killed December 20th, 2019.
Okay.
That I was telling you about. It was a couple of days before Christmas. He
Okay.
had been at the end of the school year Christmas party, and then his mom and the drunk driver picked him up from school.
Gotcha.
And he was in the car. The Texas prosecutor is our statewide prosecution magazine. They had followed the trial since I tried her for murder. And then the jury came back with 60 years. They valued that little boy's life so much.
Good.
But Texas and District County Attorneys Association that puts out the Texas prosecutor followed the trial, and they reached out and they said, hey, we'd like you to write up an article about you know, how you went about that case, what,
Cool.
you know, how you use felony murder in this process, you know, what steps you went through and all of that.
Gotcha.
And so I wrote an article and they put it on the cover. So that's
Okay.
what I put on my Facebook.
Cool, man. That's cool. I mean, and I kind of liked how you said something, I'm paraphrasing here, but something along the lines of we could offer some sort of justice to our victims, you know, and then you mentioned it was a long, hard-fought case, and then I just know that that's got to mean a lot to you to be able to give something, to get the victims out of the limbo of waiting for what's going to happen, and then to be, you know, you can't ever give it back to them of what happened, but you can give something to them, you know, whether it be a sentencing or giving the family some closure. So, I mean, is that what are some more not historical but milestone cases that you've accomplished that really just made you feel better when they were over?
Sure. I mentioned Michael Corey that we did last October. Continuous sexual abuse, 3 victims. We got 3 life without parole sentences stacked on him.
Okay.
He is a monster in every sense of the word.
Was that the guy that he was he a stepdad or a step boyfriend or whatever?
I don't want to get into
Okay.
family
Okay,
relations,
yeah.
but it was 3 little kids that
Okay.
he had custody of.
I gotcha.
And then, so I've done quite a few of those types of cases. Sarah Woody that I mentioned was very unusual
Okay.
because it wasn't about the physical abuse; it was about the mental torture of
Yeah.
these 2 children. And how I tried her. If we'd just gone on the physical abuse, it would have been a 3rd degree, and I would have been capped at 10 years.
Okay.
Because it wasn't serious bodily injury, how the law defines that.
Gotcha.
But I tried her for causing serious mental injury to the children because they had post-traumatic stress disorder for all of the
Right.
torture that they did. And I had to really do a deep dive. That they equate it to what people like John McCain and our veterans went through in the Hanoi Hilton when they were
Okay.
tortured.
Yeah.
The goal of torture is to break the spirit of the person being tortured.
Yeah, man, that's heavy. Okay.
And that's what and it's a little tiny subset of child abuse is child torture, but the goal is it's not physical abuse, it's not sexual abuse, it's to break the spirit of the
Man.
child and like exercise this godlike power over the child.
Yeah. Oof.
So you restrict their ability to go to the bathroom, you use force to enforce your will on them. But it's, you know, she'd make them take shivering showers or
Oh my
stand
God.
outside in the cold, or she put a lighter up to one of the little boy's mouth when he lied. He felt like she burned his tongue, but it was just the heat up against it. You know, it's things to mentally torture the children, the starvation. She'd lock them in the closet naked with a bucket to go to the bathroom.
Man.
And so I tried her for causing serious mental injury, which gave me a 1st-degree felony on that.
Good.
And we got a 45-year sentence. I'll tell you a true story from that case. Both children had to testify. The older brother could testify. It had to testify in court. The younger brother could do it by closed-circuit TV.
Okay.
But the morning they showed up to testify, they were both like terrified. And I was trying to get them ready for that. And I noticed one had an Iron Man T-shirt on, and one had the Hulk T-shirt on.
Cool, man.
So I was trying to think, how can I relate to these kids?
Yeah.
And I said, what makes a superhero?
Yeah.
And they thought about it, and they're like, superpowers. And I said, yeah, that's right. I said, what are Superman's superpowers?
Yeah.
They said, well, he's strong, he can fly, and he shoots lasers from his
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
I said, that's right. I said, what about Batman? They thought about it, and they're like, he doesn't have any
Yeah.
superpowers.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, Batman has a superpower. And they thought, and they tried to say the gadgets. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it's not the gadgets.
Yeah.
And they finally said, we don't know. And I said, Batman's superpower is courage.
Oh, man.
If you testify today, if you tell the truth, if you have courage, what will that make you?
Yeah.
They both had to testify. It was hard, especially with the older boy in court. But true story, Levi, they came up to me after court that day and they said, John, I was a superhero today.
That's right, man. That's freaking beautiful.
And so that I carry that with me,
Yeah.
true story, and it's kids like that. That's
Yeah.
what I want to. It's kind of like what you said about the Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah.
with,
Put
you
the
know,
glasses on. Feel that courage. Yeah.
making them feel like that they're special, that they're believed, that they're valuable.
Yeah, they're worth hearing. Yeah, and it's so important. And I keep wanting to bring up people like Ebony because you and her play such an important role in these victims' lives. Of they are worth hearing, and their story is worth being stood up for. And then so I would like I would like for you to put out a piece in your position to encourage somebody going through something. What could you tell them to encourage them to seek help or speak to the right person in your legal capability? I would just like for you to put some encouragement out to someone listening.
Sure. If anybody's in an abusive situation, then certainly, call. If it's domestic abuse, we have First Step is wonderful. It's a fabulous organization. Look First Step up. Call them.
Okay.
Call the police. Get help. In the cycles of violence, it's not just the person who's being abused, but there's oftentimes children in there that are seeing the abuse, that it has major devastating effects on kids.
For sure, man, for sure.
So I would just encourage anyone who's listening that if they're in a situation like that, there is help for them. There are resources available. Then if it's, a lot of times people ask me, what should I be looking for, with my kids to make sure that they're safe? Because, these molesters, usually they know the kids, it's in the 90% of them or more. We always hear, when I was growing up, it was always stranger danger.
Right.
It's usually someone who has some sort of relationship with the child. I always say, first off, no secrets. Kids need to be taught from an early age that they don't keep secrets from mom and dad.
I heard a good saying on that was responsible adults don't tell kids to keep secrets, or someone that doesn't do anything wrong doesn't tell kids to keep secrets.
Absolutely.
Something I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, that goes right along with what you just said. And okay, good. What else?
Secondly, look for behavioral changes.
Okay.
So many times the kids will. One sexual abuse case I did, the first grade teacher noticed the little girl change from being outgoing and friendly to totally reserved, and that she noticed that. She tried to talk to the little girl. The little girl wouldn't disclose.
Okay.
But then when she eventually did disclose, that's pretty powerful evidence that the teacher was seeing how the abuse at home was affecting the child at school.
Okay.
So personality changes. I had one case that I did. The mom was taking the daughter to a relative on the other side of the family. The girl never disclosed, but the mom just got this feeling something's not right here. And so she cut off visitation. Well, it came out later, there was another relative that was molested by this person, and then her daughter wound up disclosing a number of years later.
Okay.
Well, the mom cut off the contact. I mean, it was still devastating, but the mom listened to that voice that, I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I think so many times parents have that inner sense of something's not right with my child.
Right.
And so don't, listen to that voice. Grooming is a very real thing. So look for inappropriate relationships, age-wise, communications. The internet is so dangerous. All of our apps and chat rooms, a lot of video games have chat room components, and predators will try to get kids through that. And so really monitoring social media and those types of things.
Okay. Is there anything that you would encourage, say like someone, innocent bystander, doesn't have to be related to anybody, but if you notice something as an acquaintance, what could you do if you didn't feel comfortable just calling the cops and being like, something's wrong with this child that I know? What are some tips or some tricks that you as just an acquaintance could maybe talk with the parents? Or like, is there anything that someone that's not a legal guardian could take, like a wellness check or a welfare check?
And you can always make a referral to the child abuse hotline, CPS, and all that if you have something that's an actual report.
Okay.
If your spotty sense is just kind of going off, I'll tell you one case that I had. The best friend of the guy that wound up being the defendant noticed that this female relative was sitting in his lap in a way, and it wasn't anything that was overtly sexual, but for her age, it just wasn't. It didn't sit right with him.
Okay.
And this was the guy's best friend.
Yeah.
Well, the parents were divorced, so he goes to the mom and says, "You need to talk to her and just check. I don't know, but I got the feeling something was off."
Gotcha.
Well, the girl wound up disclosing to the mom this long-term sexual abuse that this relative was doing. And so that guy, put an end to, there were 2 children being abused in that situation.
Man,
And because he, listened, he would have looked kind of silly making a report to the police because he
Right.
didn't have anything
Hard evidence,
But he
yeah.
went to an appropriate person
Okay.
in it and said, "Hey, I've seen this, and it
Okay.
doesn't look right." That's my number one piece of advice. If something doesn't feel right, if it doesn't look right, if your gut's wrong, something's off with that gut check, say something to somebody, whether it's, a protective adult,
Okay.
or certainly if it's a crime, then you need to report that.
Okay, man, that's good. That's all good information. And then, is there anything like one? I'm sorry we got so deep into that topic, but me being a new dad, I want to know these things. I want to get that's great information. We as a culture are becoming more aware of these things and more concerned about them. Where I feel like some, and not everybody, I'm not blanketing this or umbrelling this topic, but people of past generations like to sweep things under the rug or maybe just not talk about it. And then now I'm very proud of us as a society being like, no longer. Like people like you, people in your office are just taking a hard, no bullshit stance on this. And I really like that.
I agree with that. What we see a lot, I've talked to potential jurors, and it's very uncomfortable because I have to ask them, you or someone close to you ever been a victim of abuse? And we'll have women in their 70s that wind up, we try to do it very delicately.
Yeah.
The issue is I can't have somebody that makes a jury that's either biased, we've got to know about that, or sometimes it's just so emotional they wouldn't be able to sit and listen to the case.
Right, exactly.
But it can be a very awkward thing. But we find 70-year-old women that have never told anybody that they were the victims of abuse.
Yeah.
I think what happened in previous generations is they would say we handled it within the family.
Yeah.
And what that meant was everybody kind of looked the other way, and you wound up with multi-generational abuse. So, but I do think that there's a lot more awareness and a lot more resources out there, and a lot more, Patsy's House is just amazing.
Good.
Leading the forefront on that of make a safe place for.
Is that a
children to
Wichita
disclose.
Falls thing?
It serves. It's in Wichita Falls, and it serves the region.
Okay.
So they have forensic interviewers that are trained to do non-suggestive interviews with children.
Okay.
So, they've got some amazing people over there. Denise Roberts that leads Patsy's House is just incredible. We're so blessed to have her over there. But the forensic interviewers, they're very good with kids. They make kids comfortable. It's a kid-friendly, kid-safe environment.
Good. Okay.
And then the goal is just to make the kids comfortable, and so they let the children tell their story, but they don't ever suggest things to them.
Okay.
And so, a lot of false convictions or false cases are where kids are prompted and kind of suggested something.
Yeah.
They're trained to ask open-ended questions that make the child comfortable to tell, but they only go where the child leads them. But, resources like Patsy's House make such a huge difference.
Good, man. That's good. And I'm glad. And I can post a link for Patsy's House and then maybe get some more information on them to put in the video description. I'm going to have to do a lot of I see something all the time. I watch a lot of documentaries, and a lot of them may or may not have to do with like sexual abuse or something along those lines, and they always shout out something called www.wannatalkaboutit.com. And I'm not a victim, so I haven't personally checked it out, but doesn't mean I couldn't. I'm curious now. I'm gonna look into that website now and then see if it's appropriate to tag into this conversation, because I think from the context I've seen it used in, I think it would be a good resource. And I think it's just a more national stance similar to Patsy's House. So
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. I've seen it in a couple different things, a lot on Netflix. So clearly it's a big organization. So I'll check it out, and if it's the right fit for it, then I'm going to plug it as well in this video description. And man, I really want to get resources out to the people that are curious. Maybe some people don't know. I didn't know some of these things, and that's why I wanted to get your take on it and hear the legal, the right things to do. I mean, because there's a million wrong or illegal things to do, and then that's not always the correct thing or the right path to follow. So if we can hear the right things from the right people and really just, help people that need to be helped.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it. I'm here to spread positivity and get good people in the seat across from me and hear good stories, So I'm glad, and I've said it already, but I'm glad that y'all have taken such a strong stance on this, and you got a lot of experience in it now, and I'm glad y'all do what you do, man. But anything else? Let's get off the child topic. Anything else? You mentioned some drug cases. Any more adult versus adult type of problematic cases, or like substantial things that you've seen come through your office, or like that y'all have had to represent the county with? Like
One case that always sticks out in my mind. We had a missing persons investigation.
Okay.
And the suspicion immediately fell to the husband that he had done something. I guess there'd been a domestic violence type relationship, and the wife disappears, and the husband and his father run off to Miami together.
Okay.
And we're kind of living on the streets of Miami. So they were very strong suspects, but we really couldn't prove a murder happened.
Okay.
And it was a very sad situation. Well, we worked with the Wichita Falls Police Department for a number of years. It was very frustrating for the girl's family,
Right.
Because they felt like they knew what had happened to her, but we just didn't have anything to prove that.
Right.
And one day I got a phone call from Tony Fideli, who you know Tony.
Shout out Tony.
Yeah, and Tony had talked to somebody who the sister of the guy, he had killed himself by this point.
Okay.
But she had said, my dad's not going to talk to me that way because I know where they buried that body.
Okay.
So I'm at the DA's office, and Tony used to work at the DA's office, and I just, on a random, I think it was a Tuesday afternoon, I was after hours, I get a phone call from Tony. He's like, John, this is probably nothing, and he tells me that, and I'm like, well, I'll pass it on to the detective. So I pass it on to the detective, and Detective Killingsworth, who does a tremendous job. He immediately tracked down the person that Tony had talked to and followed the chain back. And then he brings the sister in, and she broke down, and she's like, yeah, my brother, from what I understand, my brother killed her, and my dad helped dispose of the body.
Okay.
There's a park out toward Iowa Park that's got that swinging bridge.
Yeah, I know exactly. Is it Burnett Park?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
And so that's where they had disposed of the body. This stands out in my mind because it's like a week before Halloween. And they went down and they dug down and they found the box where the body was, or what she was wrapped in. And they wound up calling in the FBI body recovery team.
Okay.
But it was so funny because these two detectives had to sleep with the body all night long until the FBI came in the next day. I was like, that would make such a good ghost story.
God, traumatic. Talk about traumatic. Okay.
And so then the next day, the FBI recovery team comes in, and they're down there digging, exhuming this body that's been there for a long time. And the woman that's down there, she's part of the FBI recovery team. She gets physically sick and has to go throw up in the woods. I'm like, maybe you're in the wrong line of work.
Right. Because that seems to be the calling of that position. Yeah.
So they told me, well, what do you need on the dad? Because he was not, Texas doesn't have accessory after the fact.
Okay.
And so we couldn't prove he was part of the murder, so I can't charge him with murder. Tampering with a physical evidence, a body, is a second-degree felony.
Okay.
With 2 to 20. And so I'm like, I need him to admit that he disposed of the body.
Okay.
And so Detective Killingsworth and another detective went and met with a dad who lived in Abilene. They, he tried to lie. They confront him, and then he broke down. He's like, yeah, he admitted to it. Well, we tried him, and he got 20 years, which is the maximum.
Okay.
And the girl's parents had been out posting, posters, our daughter's missing. And they ran into him before all of this.
Oh, man. Okay.
And they said, look, we know your son did this. Your son's dead. Please tell us just so we have some closure.
Yeah.
And he looked at them and said, I don't know where she is. Besides, I never could stand the B anyway.
Man.
And that was such powerful testimony. I counted up the number of days and hours and minutes that they were without knowing what happened to their daughter, even after the son had killed himself and was out of the picture. And Judge Brotherton gave a 20-year sentence, which was the maximum for that. But that's an unusual case because it had to do with the body and the recovery of the body. And it was so, you don't expect to get a phone call from Tony Fedeli that's going to lead to the recovery of a body.
Right,
so.
Exactly. And then Purdue and Brandon is where Tony works. They handle more like tax problems, don't they?
Yes.
And then for him to have any lead or help with a criminal investigation, that is very interesting and a weird take. But man, I don't envy. Were they city investigators or Wichita Falls PD investigators that had to stay out there?
That's correct.
God, I don't envy them not one bit. Yeah, imagine them having that story for the rest of their life or going out and camping. But for anyone that is from this area, which most of these viewers are, they know of Burnett Park, and that place is already kind of got some, say, ghost stories or just kind of a creepy aura to it. So that story sure didn't help. But then I remember that case, and I remember them just randomly, the whole town knowing that, oh my God, a woman was found like at the bottom of this place.
Yep.
Just such a traumatic event. And then, it's not every single time, but so many times over just the stupidest things that people lose their lives over, and or they don't lose their life, but maybe they got close to it, and it's just like, man, we need to be doing better as people. But you kind of touched on it on another topic, but so many they end up being defendants, but abusers, and whether they're murderers or whatever, they experience traumatic events to themselves at a young age or at a influential age, and then rather than like we talked about how some people handle it in the family, then they take it out on someone else, and I'm just glad that we're kind of getting this ugly truth out as a culture, and then being able to attack these problems different. And then now the state and private companies have more accessible help for people to, to handle these issues, rather than letting people just continually, generational abuse, like you mentioned, or mass murder or serial killers, whatever it is. So I'm glad that we're getting our resources out there, and I'm glad that us as a society is changing. But man, you're still just going to have evil people, and then that's why we have people like you to handle people like that. But man, we're getting pretty far into this. Is there any big highlights in your career from 2001? I mean, even back to law school up until today that we hadn't talked about?
I've tried a lot of cases. I'm trying to think of one that the Sarah Woody one stands out, which I mentioned, the body recovery case. Mm-hmm. I did a shaken baby case, which was like going to med school, to be able to prove what I had to read all this medical research of what, Dr. Kaufman that's at Cook Children's Hospital, there's a split of authority as to whether or not you can shake a child enough to injure a child, or whether you have to have a slam mechanism where the child is slammed. And Dr. Kaufman says, what do you think happens to a child when you shake them like that? Mm-hmm. But that was a very medical case. Mm-hmm. And that one stands out in my mind.
Had to learn a lot more to be able to do your job.
Yes.
I gotcha. But then that's where those resources came in that you've been talking about this whole conversation of, whether it be, allocating the money to bring in experts to talk to doctors like that, or taking the time and money to educate yourself on it, and then get you in front of the certain people to learn more. So, man, you do wear a lot of hats, and you have a lot of responsibilities in this position. So it's a good thing that you are as young as you are, because, man, it's got to be tough to be any older to do this and have so much responsibility on your hands. I kind of laugh to see how much my dad has aged over his time in office and stuff. And I'm like, man, y'all have high stress, and his is so much less stressful than your position. You see so much traumatic stuff. But before I give you the floor, I want to ask you a fun question I've been asking a lot of past guests is, what is your favorite restaurant here in Wichita County that you like to support, and preferably a locally owned restaurant?
There's so many good ones.
I know it's hard.
I love the cheeseburgers at Ronnie's.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then, man, I like to consider myself a cheeseburger connoisseur, and they're good. But have you ever tried the cheeseburger at Progress and Provisions down here?
I never have had that.
It's worth it, man.
Okay.
And you would see the place and be like, oh, I bet their chicken salad sandwich is better than their hamburger. Wrong, man. And it's one that I have to debate myself daily of don't buy it again. Don't buy it again, because man, it's good. Any other good ones besides Ronnie's?
In Progress and Provisions, I've done the Thursday night trivia thing, and
Okay.
they have I've had their pizza, which is pretty amazing.
Man, their pizza's pretty competitive in the area. Over at the brewery, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then that kind of.
So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Half pint. I love half pint.
Yeah, half pint's good, and so yeah, you like the same diet as I do of pizza and burgers.
Yes.
That's what when I finally decide to, okay, let's just divulge like the caveman I want to be. I'm like, pizza and hamburgers is my first thought, and I'll tell you, my favorite pizza is Stone Oven, just right over here across the street from y'all.
I have never had that.
You need to, man.
Okay.
Take the time, or just order delivery sometime. And man, they really good. And I like shouting them out. And some of their guys are going to come on here one day. But yeah, that's just always a fun question to ask, to see who supports who, and to shout them out. And I got the question because in 2020, I think, whenever the last time my dad had to run opposed, they got him on KFDX or somewhere. And they're asking a bunch of commissioner questions. What do you do, budget? What do you blah, 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 blah. And then he's just answer, no problem. And then they get to the very end. They said, Commissioner Watts, what's your favorite Tex-Mex restaurant? And he said, this is the hardest question you've asked me this entire time. And he answered it from west to east end of the county. He started in Electra and ended in Wichita, and described all his favorite Tex-Mex places. And I was like, that's a good way for us to keep supporting our local favorite places. So, but man, John, I really want to give you the floor to, are you running this November?
I'm running this November. I'm unopposed.
Okay.
So that's a huge blessing.
But in years to come, if you do, I want to be able to give this to you to tell us as Wichita County voters why we should vote for John Gillespie.
Being district attorney and representing the voters has been one of my greatest honors and privileges. My heart is in the courtroom, and being a voice and advocate for children that have never had anyone, speak on their behalf.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've done that this year, standing up for Christian in the Miguel Matthews case, the 4-year-old little boy. She should have cared for him. His mother should have cared for him. They didn't. I prosecuted both of them. And, being in the trenches, being in the courtroom, leading the office to go after people who harm children, go after people who violate children, locking them up where they cannot harm anybody. That's the greatest calling that I have as district attorney. If I am doing that, I want to lead the office well. I'm going to be responsible with the money that the voters entrust to me in that. But really leading the office and building an office that is fearless, being in court, being in the trenches, fighting, for justice, for kids, and for the vulnerable in our society. That's very close to my heart. That's the type of district attorney I want to be. And, I would certainly appreciate the support of everybody in the community to have that kind of vision to make a difference, because when we lock up these offenders, when we stop the cycles of abuse, I did a case, one case that sticks out in my mind. Danny Rivers, he had been to prison multiple times for this type of stuff. The last time he had 8 victims, and only one of the victims was able to testify. We got a life sentence on him, and we stopped him ever doing that again.
Good.
But these predators will continue to do it until they are stopped.
That's right.
And so, I want to be the person who's in court, who's utilizing my skills and my experiences on behalf of the voters to be that voice of justice to protect kids. And so that would be, that's what's close to my heart, and that's what I invite people to join me. When people support me, I was very honored not to have opponents this time, but to be that voice, hold me accountable to doing that.
Yeah.
That's what's close to my heart. But I think that's what I bring and bring to the office and what I desire to bring.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I've talked with other county employees, of course, and they enjoy working with you. So it's good when your coworkers have good things to say about you, especially when you're not in the room.
Oh,
So
that's kind.
that is good, and that's always good. And I just wanted to put like a disclaimer out there. There's some very popular cases going on in Wichita County, and then we just can't talk about active cases going on right now. And then maybe in the future when certain cases close, then John can come back and we can talk about everything we're legally allowed to talk about. But I don't want anyone getting mad about, oh, you had him here and you didn't take the opportunity to talk about this or that, popular things going on. And so just a disclaimer, maybe in the future we can get to some of these more popular things that have came across the news. But as always, I just want to say thank you for coming here, and everyone, thank you for listening. If y'all enjoyed this, there's going to be a political person every 3 weeks from now, and then so anyways, like, subscribe, tell your friends, share it on Facebook. Now you know how who our district attorney is. And then John, tell them how to get a hold of you, the best ways. I know you're on social media, but that's probably not the best way to get a hold of you. Tell them the easiest way professionally to get a hold of you.
Sure. You can call the district attorney's office at 766-8113.
Okay, perfect. And then he is on Facebook. He shares some good, just some positive stuff here and there. And but John, I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did too, Levi. Thank you so much.
You bet. I'm glad to give you the platform. And I just would say that if there was someone running against you, I would also give them the same platform just to give our county, the information that we need to be able to make educated votes and stuff. So
that's very fair.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're representing us, man. And I've seriously enjoyed this. So
right.
Everyone, tell your friends, and hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.